Well, hello everyone and welcome to another very exciting episode here on the MI Gardener channel. Hopefully you all are going to enjoy this episode. It's very, very cold out, so I'm going to make this one quick because I don't have gloves on. But I wanted to talk about what we're doing today. So as you can see, we got ourselves some beautiful raised beds, and you're probably wondering, Luke, why are they stacked up? I don't think you're supposed to grow that high, and I don't think this is your garden. Well, no, it's not. This is the garden area behind me, and we're actually building them here because what you don't see is how wet the ground is still. We have been blessed with a very unseasonably cold and very, very wet season. So that's not normal for this time of year. Usually that comes earlier in April. However, it's late May, and we actually have a freeze warning tonight, and it looks like we're going to get it. So what I wanted to stress is that, you know, as gardeners, because it can be very discouraging, and you can't really choose the weather, you can't change the weather. And for a new, beginning gardener that just decided to garden this year in Michigan, I am so sorry for you. But you know what? It's better to learn that you can't control the weather and you just got to work with it now than, you know, to try to just fight it for your whole life. So as gardeners, we have these problems and you just got to roll with the punches. You just got to make the best out of every situation. So what we are doing to make the best out of every situation is by taking the time to build their beds now rather than when we can plant. So we're freezing our butt off now and stacking the beds up to keep them off the moist ground. The bed on the very bottom is going to be the heaviest bed because it's actually absorbing all the moisture from the garden. And so we're building them here, so we're then moving them into the garden because we don't want to be moving them. We don't want to be walking in the garden when it's wet because it's going to pack down that soil. And ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to take shovels and we're going to lift the really good, rich garden soil and put them into the boxes. So we don't want to be compacting the soil that we're going to ultimately put in the boxes. So by letting the soil dry out and just working outside the garden for now, it's going to allow us to do that. So I wanted to also take some time to talk about these beds here because these beds are 4 feet by 12 feet. And I get a lot of questions about the cost of the beds, the materials that we use, and why we use these materials. So the first reason is the first reason why we use raised beds is because we want to raise the soil up, and it's going to help the soil to dry out better, and it's an added cost that's going to pay off in the long run. So that's why we kind of made the decision. And you should always do that. You should always say, is it worth it for me to build raised beds? Because if you're fine just building up a berm of soil, or if you're fine growing right in ground, it's far less expensive. And so you're going to be able to, your barrier to entry into gardening is even less than it is with raised beds. But we've managed to make it pretty inexpensive if you do choose to do raised beds. And for us, it's definitely worth it to have raised beds, which we'll get into in another episode that we have titled, it's already slated to be filmed. It's called, it's going to be called, Are Raised Beds Right for Me? That's what it's called. And so we are going to talk about the beds now. If raised beds are right for you, the way we have found is the most inexpensive is to go with construction grade white pine. Construction grade white pine is untreated, and this 12-foot boards ran us about $9.20 a board. And then the 4-foot sections we actually got from an 8-foot long piece and just cut it in half. And the 8-foot long sections were around $6.80. So you're talking about $28 per bed. Not bad at all, especially because the fact that we're growing in 48 square feet of growable space. It's unbelievable for that cost. And so we're very grateful to have found a good source. We got these at Menards. And so for anyone looking, that's a very good source. Also Lowe's, Home Depot, but you're going to pay a little bit more for Lowe's and Home Depot because Menards actually has a self-service kind of component to the lumber. You have to get it yourself. So they're not paying someone to load up your lumber for you. And so if you're someone who's got some muscles and wants to save some money, that's the place to go. So then also all we've done is we've just put 3 or 4 screws in each, depending on how warped the wood is. If the wood is kind of warped and bowing, we put 4 screws. If it's very flat and very flush and fits together nicely, only 3 screws is needed. Because then also we're going to come in through here and we're going to peg in a 2-inch by 2-inch wooden peg to secure the beds as well. So that's going to be added security, and they're really not going to move once you get that done. Once you get the beds down, filled with soil and pegged into place, there's going to be no moving, no shifting, and it's really going to add the extra rigidity that you're looking for. So I'm going to build a bed now, and we're going to do that. Believe it or not, this is only half of the beds that we're going to be building. I know, it's crazy. We are going to have 20 beds, and that's also going to give us a little bit of wiggle room in the middle for some kind of fun, creative play space that we're going to have some fun with some fire rings. I'm going to show you a really cool thing you can do with recycled fire rings, and oftentimes state parks will recycle them and throw them out, and you can actually get them, and I'm going to show you what you can do with them. Now, that's for a later video, but stay tuned for it because it's very exciting. Now, the last thing that I wanted to state is the fact that this is not for everyone. This type of cost, we're looking at around $650 to be completely done with the beds. For not everyone has that much space. So use this method and just scale it down. And same thing for someone who wants to have even more raised beds. I mean, I don't know who would need more than 20 raised beds, but if you need more than that, simply scale it up. It's a very scalable thing. And so for people that don't have as much money or as much space, go with a 3x10. That's going to be significantly less. That's going to be something like maybe $20 a bed. And so you're going to be able to save some money there as well if you don't have the space or the money. So, all right, let's go build a bed. We're just going to build them right on the ground, and then we're going to lift them up and put them on the stacks there. These are wet too, which makes them a little heavier. They were out in the rain. The screws we're going to be using are a 3.5-inch galvanized deck screw. They are kind of just nude in color. That way they're going to kind of just blend into the wood, and they're really not going to be that noticeable. Then the drill we're going to be using is actually an impact driver. No, I'm not being sponsored to say this, but this tool right here will change your life. For those of you that have not used an impact driver, I would suggest getting one, making the investment. They're about 90 bucks, and they will save your life so many times. I would suggest getting more of the battery packs. This is DeWalt. I love the DeWalt because it has a great warranty behind it. But you can get whatever brand you want. The fact of the matter is that they all are pretty awesome, and they're definitely worth investing in. So I'm going to show you just how easy it is to use. These have nice lights on them too, so if you're getting in a dark situation, it's going to help you out too. So we're going to put these beds together. Well, this bed, the rest of them are already done. And the one thing that I wanted to stress is to just keep it simple, okay? Don't overcomplicate things, and you're going to have more fun in the long run. So I'm going to get this where you can see it here. And I'll show you just how easy the impact driver makes it. Now you can use a drill, but I find oftentimes a drill you gotta really push in there, and some people just don't have the strength to do that. And that's perfectly fine if you don't. You can still garden. So already done. I barely have to put any pressure behind the drill. It is nice to have 2 people, but one thing that I do stress is that one person can do this because I'm doing it. But it is, oops. Just gotta make sure it doesn't slip, because if it slips, there you go. If it slips, you're going to have to reverse it back out and then put it in, because it's good to have the board flush before you put the screw through. So, but I can do this myself one-handed, and it does not require any force at all to put it in. The drill does all the work, or the driver does all the work. This is not a drill, by the way. This is an impact driver. Huge difference. I'm telling you what, I love it. I absolutely love it. So, not a sponsor, but you know what, DeWalt? Call me. I'd be open. So there you go. There is how you build raised beds using just one tool. I know, I absolutely do not overcomplicate things, because I find that I have the most fun doing it that way. So what I want to also tell you is, I get asked a lot how long these beds are going to last. People are like, oh, why didn't you go with cedar? Well, cedar costs like 4 times the price. So, it's a little give and take. The cedar is rot resistant, and the white pine is not. However, the white pine, since it costs 4 to 5 times less than the cedar, you're going to be able to, obviously, if it does rot, you're going to be able to build all the raised beds again. And while it might be inconvenient, you're still at less cost than just the cedar beds, which do in fact rot over time. So, they're not completely rot resistant. What I do want to say, though, is that these can be expected to last between 5 and 7 years. Depending on how your growing season goes is going to depict how long the beds will last. Wet, very cold seasons, they'll last about 5 years, because they're on the lower end of that spectrum. But if they're very dry and very nice and friendly growing seasons, you can expect, 7 years, maybe even 8 years out of them. We had beds at the old house that were on their 5th year, and they were showing absolutely no signs of rotting. And so you can definitely expect at least 5 years out of them. So that's great. For $28, you really can't beat that. And that's it. I do want to give you all the opportunity to post in the comments box below any comments or questions you might have. I do want to say also, on the mind, you can in fact rub these down with an oil, a boiled linseed oil, like a grapeseed oil or sunflower seed oil. There's lots of different oils out there that are kind of like plant-based, very non-toxic to the hands and the soil life and your plants. So go with that, and you can actually rub that down, and you can rub the beds down with it, and it's going to actually increase the longevity even more. So that's just another thing that you can do, but I'm perfectly fine leaving them as is. So again, post your comments in the comments box below, and I'll definitely answer them. But hopefully you all enjoyed. Hopefully you are growing big or going home, or hopefully soon we'll be growing big or going home. I know we will in the next few weeks. So we're going to be bringing you all along for that, and I'm very excited for it. So I will talk to you all later. This is Luke from the My Gardener channel. See ya. Bye.